Hey everyone, how's it going? Good to be with you. Hope everyone had a good Christmas and getting ready for the new year. This is it. This is the last video for this year, for 2024. And even though I didn't do a lot of digging this year, I didn't make that many videos this year, I still got good records this year, and it was a good year for the collection. So despite not much activity, what little activity I did have, produced some good stuff. And this little stack of records to end the year is a good stack, at least for me personally. So let's go. Let's do this. A live record, Midge-Ure, live at Royal Albert Hall. Live record, 3-record set. Back in April 10th, 2023 is when this was recorded. So, really cool. Like I said, it's a 3-record set. And, of course, it came with the print of the cover artwork. 3-record set. And it's 3 different sets on here, of course. The first being the acoustic set, which takes up side A of this record. This is record number 1 of 3. And then side 2 is the electronic band. And that takes up all of side 2 of the first record. First record is on blue vinyl, which is really nice. Record number 2 is Midge-Ure playing the Ultravox album Vienna in its entirety. So that's always been one of my favorite Ultravox records. So it's kind of nice to have a live recording of it in its entirety. And this sounds great. I really love this with New Europeans, Sleepwalk, of course the song Vienna, and All Stood Still. And pretty much the whole album sounds great on this live recording from Midge-Ure. This one's on purple vinyl. So really nice. And the last record, the 3rd record, is basically the encores. And the last few songs to end the set, Fade to Gray, which was a Visage song, but he sings it, Midge-Ure sings it on this live recording. Dancing with Tears in My Eyes, and ending with the song Hymn. Very nice, very nice. Good collection of songs to end this 3-record set with. Very nice. And this one's on green vinyl. And there we go. Those are 3 records included in this set, which I am very, very happy to have. A lot of music covered in this, as you would expect with 3 records, but it is a fun listen. It's a fun listen. The first night I was brave and decided to listen to the whole thing in one sitting. I'm not going to do that again because that's so much music. Look at all this music that's on here. It's a lot to sit through in one sitting, but the first night I spun this, I digested the whole thing at once, and now I sort of fast track my favorite records out of this set. And I saw Midge-Ure in Sacramento over the summer in July of this year, and in a little club called Harlow's in Sacramento. Very small place, very small, intimate place. Nice place to see a show, actually. They have a lot of concerts there. And a very small, cozy, intimate setting. Not a very big crowd, but a very loud, appreciative crowd. And you could tell Midge-Ure was really enjoying himself. He was just smiles, and he was really into it all night. And he played for about 2 hours. It was a 2-hour concert, evening with, no opening band. And, I had the best time seeing Midge-Ure in Sacramento. That was the second time I've ever seen him live. And that night was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I really loved that night. Came home with a big, big, big smile on my face, and was really happy. I went to go see Midge-Ure, and then shortly after that, the announcement of this live record came out. And I immediately put in a pre-order for it because the night in July when I saw him, that was probably the best concert of the summer. That and the church, which I think I saw them both in the same month. Both saw them in July. So July was a good month for me. It was a good summer. And he put on a great show, always does. It's like I said, the second time I've seen him live. it's always good to see Midge Ure, so I was glad to see him for such an extended set. Really cool. All right, let's move on here. We're going to move on. Another live recording, a couple of bootlegs from the band Genesis. The first one is this one, live Genesis Live Rock, live from Pittsburgh in 1976. So this would have been the A Trick of the Tail tour, the first tour Phil Collins becomes the lead singer of Genesis. And this is from a live radio recording session, or FM radio broadcast. I have, over the years, I developed a big collection of Genesis bootlegs on CD. So I had a big box full of Genesis bootlegs on CD. And this Pittsburgh 1976 bootleg was always one of my favorite ones I've had in my collection. So I've heard this many times. But this is the first time I've ever seen it available on vinyl. And it's a 2-record set. And of all the Genesis bootlegs I collect, this was one of the best sounding ones. I'm not saying it's the best sounding one, but it's one of them. There's a 2-record set, but they all have the same label, so I'll just show you this one record just to give you an idea what the label looks like. Really cool, really cool. My CD bootleg contained the same songs as this one does, except my CD, on the CD, at the end of all the concert, it has an interview with Phil Collins back in 1976, slightly after the show that went out on the FM broadcast. This does not contain that, but no big deal. I'm there for the music anyway, and classic Genesis songs from the 70s. Dance on a Volcano, Lamb Lies on Broadway, Find a Windshield, Cropper Colors, Robbery, Assault and Battery, White Mountain, Firth the Fifth, Cinema Show, Supper's Ready, Entangled, Squonk, Los Endos, and It, and Watchers of the Skies. This is a good bootleg, and the sound quality, because it's an FM radio broadcast, really good sound quality as far as bootlegs go. Not obviously an official live recording would sound better, but as a bootleg, this sounds really good. And like I said, it's one of my favorite Genesis bootlegs, live in Pittsburgh. I really dig this album, the set of songs. This is the era of the band. Like I said, it was the debut of Phil Collins as the lead vocalist. That's the first tour. He was the lead singer, and I guess you could say part-time drummer. And it's just really cool to hear these recordings. And the drummer, when Phil Collins was singing, was Bill Bruford. So for Yes fans, that's probably a big deal. So there we go. Genesis live in Pittsburgh, 1976. This is a killer bootleg. One of my favorites in my collection. So really happy that is in my vinyl collection. It feels so cool to have that on vinyl. As well as this one. Genesis, the reunion rehearsal, London broadcast from 1982. This would be the rehearsal for the reunion of Genesis with Peter Gabriel back in the band as the lead singer for one show only. And they just sort of did this as a benefit gig for Peter Gabriel in 1982. I believe they did this this reunion concert in Milton Keynes, I think it is. I don't know. I don't live in England, so I don't really know that for sure. So this is just a recording of the rehearsals for that show. I actually do have a bootleg of the whole reunion concert on CD and on vinyl. I've had this on CD for years, this rehearsal recording, which actually sounds better than the live recording concert. They sound better in rehearsal than they did in the concert for that one night show. And the one night Peter Gabriel was back with Genesis, and it's for Genesis fans. This is still a cool thing to have. It was the last time Gabriel was on stage with the guys, and that must have been a great night to be there. Though I heard the night of the concert, they were playing in an ugly rainstorm. It was just a big mud bath because it was an outdoor venue. Milton Keynes, I believe it was called. I'm not really 100% sure about that. So, listening to the bootleg of the actual reunion concert, it was pretty sloppy. It was pretty sloppy. There were some bum notes and whatnot. Here's record 2. I don't know why I'm showing this because it's the exact same label as record 1. But not bad for a 2-record set. I bought this used. I got a good price for it. The records are in good shape. They're not all scratched up. They don't skip. They actually sound really good. Me being a huge Genesis fan, it's nice to have these favorite bootlegs of mine on vinyl. So I feel real happy to have scored a copy of this. This is a really good, really good song listing. Back in New York City, Dance with the Moonlit Night, Carpet Crawlers, First to Fifth, Lamb Lays Down on Broadway, Fly in the Windshield, The Cage, Supper's Ready, The Knife, and 2 different takes of Salisbury Hill. So really cool, really cool. The only thing that's missing on here, I think, is Turn It On Again. The band does perform Turn It On Again. Phil Collins on vocals this time. Peter Gabriel on drums along with Chester Thompson. So really cool. I think Phil Collins mostly plays drums on most of these songs. So it's a real nice listen to hear the 70s era of Genesis performed during the 80s. One more bootleg. Why not, huh? It's from Van Halen, or Van Hagar, I should say. That's the era of this album. Van Halen, the Superdome Tokyo in 1989, live radio broadcast from February 1st, 1989 in Tokyo. So really cool. I bought this a day or two after Record Store Day, and Van Halen released a live recording of them from Dallas, Texas in 1991. And that was the big item out for Record Store Day. I went a day or two after Record Store Day. I still found 3 copies of that particular album of them live in Dallas, Texas, and was thinking about getting that. The thing is, though, I own the live album that's called Live Right Here, Right Now, from the same tour, from the same year, the same tour, and pretty much contains all the same songs. And the thing with my album, Live Right Here, Right Now, it's not a true live recording. After the Concert Trash recorded, they went in the studio and touched up the drums and what other things. So it's not a true live recording, but for what it is, I think it still sounds great. The Live in Texas, Dallas, Texas album, that's a true live recording, remastered. So that's the only difference between those 2 albums. Other than that, it's the same songs. So I thought I'd go for this. Number 1, it's cheaper. This was only like $19. But it contains songs that weren't on the collection I just spoke of. Like it has AFU Naturally Wired, Black and Blue, Mine All Mine, 5150, Cathedral. So there's some songs on here that are hard to find live. And because it's a radio broadcast, the sound quality is pretty good as far as, like I said, as far as bootlegs are concerned, it sounds really good. Obviously, an official live record would sound better. This is what the label looks like. Same on the other side. I'm really happy that the song 5150 is on here, because that is probably my favorite Van Halen song out of all of them, including the David Lee Roth era. Because I prefer Sammy over David Lee Roth, to tell you the truth. Don't get me wrong, I do love the David Lee Roth era songs. Those are classic rock songs, and they're killer. I don't want to make it sound like I don't like that era at all. I do like it, but if I had a choice, I would go with the Sammy era, because I thought they were just a better band then and wrote better songs then. And of course, I don't want... Obviously, there's lots of people who see it the other way around, and I don't want to get involved in that whole debate, because that's just a big waste of time. But this is a good bootleg, and this is a good album. I'm really happy I have it, as well as the song AFU Naturally Wired, and Black and Blue, and Mine Oh Mine. Some really good songs on here from the Hagar era. He sounds great on these songs. The band sounds great. They were just a fine-tuned killing machine at this point. And this was the year Well, the album they were touring was OU 812, and I saw them the prior year in 1988 during their Monsters of Rock tour. And that was the first time I ever seen Van Halen live before my very eyes. And so, though it wasn't it wasn't a recording from that era, pretty close. They were still promoting the same album. And yeah, it just reminds me of the first time seeing Van Halen live in San Francisco at Candlestick Park. That was an amazing show, and this is a really good souvenir that brings back those memories. Really like it. Okay, I should have had these albums out earlier, but I screwed up. What can I say? I wanted to show this one from Billy Cobham or Cobham. I forgot how you say his name. I think it's Cobham, and it's called Warning. And I actually bought this. There's a guy local here who's trying to open up his own vinyl store, but for now he's selling records out of his garage. But he arranges his garage as if you walked into a vinyl store. He has his R&B section, he has his classic rock section, electronic and hip hop music, and new arrivals. So when you walk in his garage, it's actually set up like a vinyl store. You actually feel like you're in one, actually. And he hooks up a stereo and plays music while you browse. And good news is he's finally going to open his own store in 2025. Hopefully by the end of January is when he's hoping to be completely moved into his little retail space that he found in North Stockton, where I live. So I always wanted to support the guy and buy records from him. And I bought this record from him because I was just happy that he's now going to get his own store, an actual store, not out of his garage at his house. So I bought this cool jazz album from Billy Cobham. This album sounds great on my stereo, and it's actually, the production's really good, and of course here's the inner sleeve, the original inner sleeve. Pictures of the musicians that play on this record. Another nice look at them right there. And like I said, it sounds great on my stereo. I love the mix on this album. And Billy Cobham, or Cobham, however you say it, is just one of the legends on drums. Despite what kind of music you like, there's no denying the skills that man has on the drum set. He is just an amazing drummer. And every time you listen to him, if you're a drummer yourself, you can't help but be influenced by him or inspired by him. This album is killer. I've only listened to it twice, and all the tracks are instrumental. So, so I'm looking at this track list and trying to recall what the songs sound like, but since all of them are instrumental, kind of drawing a blank. But I've listened to it twice, and some great musicianship on this album. But I'm mostly impressed just by the sound mix. Like I said, it sounds incredible on speaker, coming out of the speakers. It's one of my favorite records to listen to now, just for the sound quality alone, the mix. It sounds so good, so really happy I got that album. And let me go back here and get some other albums I should have had out before, that I failed to do so. This one, Love Forever Changes. I had this record already, but I had it on a mono mix over here. Yeah, here we go. This came out a few years ago on Rhino, and this is a mono mix, remastered and put on a mono mix, a 180 gram limited edition, part of their Rocktober series a couple of years ago. But it's, like I said, it's a mono mix, but it sounds great, and I love this album. And it's one of my favorite albums in my collection. The only reason I bought this used one is it's a stereo mix, as we can see there. I just thought it'd be cool to actually hear these songs in stereo. Because I really love this album. It's one of my favorite albums I have from the 60s. And, there's certain records like Sgt. Pepper's and Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? Those are the well-known albums from the 60s. I don't think this one gets enough. Love doesn't get the love it deserves, let's put it that way. From younger people who kind of trying to get into 60s music, they always skip over this one, or have never heard of it. And I think it's too bad because this is a really good album. It's an enjoyable listen. And that's why I wanted to at least get a stereo copy of it. This is a used record I got for like a couple of dollars. And the guy warned me, hey, there's a few pops on the record, pops and cracks on the record, but I was like, I don't care. As long as it doesn't skip it, it's not scratched up, I'll listen to it. And it's not. You just got to put up with a little bit of surface noise, but it sounds great. And it's really cool to hear this in stereo. So for years I had to listen to it in mono. And nice to have it in the stereo mix. That's the only reason I bought it. Now this one. I can't wait to get into this one. Main Course by the Bee Gees. Now, of course, I bought it for the two big songs on here, Jive Talking and Nights on Broadway. Those are real popular Bee Gees songs that still get listened to today. But side one on this album, I think, is really good. Besides the two songs I mentioned that start side one, the rest of the songs just sound absolutely gorgeous. And I was just sitting there. It was so good, it was like I was sitting there like in a hypnotic state. Because the music was just really working its magic on me, and I really loved it. So, really love the music on here, especially the song Come On Over. Beautiful song, sung so well. I believe Barry Gibb sings that one. And I think this came out in 75. I think a year or two later, Olivia Newton-John covered the song Come On Over, and she sounds fantastic on it too. One time I saw her live in Lake Tahoe. It's like early 2000s, and she surprised me in the middle of a show. She did a medley of songs, some of her popular songs from the 70s, and that was one of them she sang. And she sounded just so beautiful singing it. I mean, she's passed on since then, but man, the older that woman got, the better her voice got. It was unbelievable. And she sings a great version of Come On Over. And but it doesn't matter who you hear it from, it's a beautiful song, and I'm really glad to have this on vinyl. This is another album I got used for a few dollars in a clearance bin, and I'm glad I stepped up and bought it because it's a great album. It came with the original inner sleeve, picture of the band there, more lyrics on the back. And it's on the RSO album, which used to be, label, which used to be a really big record label back in the day. So it's cool to see that label again. Gave me 70s flashbacks. So really, really glad I scored this album. Classic songs, Bee Gees, of course, you don't really go wrong with the Bee Gees. They're awesome. And this album, actually, I think the whole album from start to finish is good. But side one particularly is great. So really glad I pulled the trigger on that one because it's a good record. All right, I'm going to show you two 12-inch singles, both from Phil Collins on it. Take Me Home from Phil Collins. I actually have a 12-inch single of this already, but this one's different. This is a UK pressing, limited edition. It's a gatefold because when you open up the gatefold, boom, you get this cool map with these pictures of Phil Collins from the Take Me Home video. Really cool that. I really think that's awesome. I just like the way that opens up. I have never seen this before, and I didn't know it existed, and I was really happy to score this. Number one, it's one of my favorite Phil Collins songs as a solo artist, and I've always loved this song. Even when I saw him live in 1985 in Sacramento, this was one of the songs towards the end of his show, and it was just, it was such a beautiful concert moment. So that's what the label looks like. I always like this little drawing right here that you see on either the 7-inch single or the 12-inch single. So it was really cool to have this. It has the 12-inch remix of the song, the album version of the song, and the song We Said Hello Goodbye. It's just a cool little collectible to put in the Phil Collins vinyl collection, just for the rarity of it. Like I said, I never knew this existed. I had never seen it before. So I was real surprised to see it in the record shop, and immediately picked it up. I think it was like 10 or 15 bucks, but worth it just for the rarity of it. And this one from Genesis, Tonight, 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 from one of my favorite albums of theirs, Invisible Touch, which I'm sure hardcore Genesis fans who only like 70s Genesis pretty much vomit every time they hear anything from Invisible Touch. Which is, I think, is too bad. And this song in particular is one of my favorite from that album, Tonight, Tonight, Tonight. I only bought this. This is the UK pressing of this single. I think I only have this as a 7-inch single, so it's nice to get the 12er. And of course, the 12-inch mix of the song Tonight, 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 Within the Glow of the Night, and Paper Late. And then I think the album edit of Tonight, Tonight, Tonight is what's on this record. So really cool 12-inch single there from Phil Collins and Genesis. Really dig it. Recently, there was a documentary on a channel called Drumeo here on YouTube. And Drumeo is just basically an instructional channel for drummers. You'll get a lot of famous drummers breaking down their famous drum parts or the technical drum parts. So it's a good place to learn if you want to learn drums. It's a good channel to visit. And they've gotten big over the years and got some really big stars. Stuart Copeland's been on there, Mike Portnoy's been on there, and just to name a few. And Phil Collins and his son was on there. They put together this really nice 2-hour documentary going over the whole drumming career of Phil Collins. Not so much his singing and pop career. They just focused on the drums. You know, some of his iconic Genesis drum parts from the 70s, some from the 80s, and of course some of the big hits, breaking down the drums, and his big solo hits. They even talked about Easy Lover and that thing, and breaking down that drum part. And Phil just kind of talking about memories of putting those songs together and those drum parts together, and talking about the different drum sets he's played over the years and memories of the different drum kits and setups he's had. If you're interested in Phil Collins, the drummer only, that is a great documentary to watch, and I recommend anyone watch it. And I've watched it and loved it, and who knows, I'll probably watch it again as soon as I turn the camera off. Anyway, that's going to do it for my vinyl stack, last vinyl stack of 2024. Thank you for hanging out with me for another year, and you guys know who you are. Please say hello to me in the comments, and I'll say hello back to you in the comments. And as always, we'll get a little chat going. Again, thanks for hanging out with me for another year, and 2025 should be just as fun. All right, see you again. Thank you.